a new video. I think it's a good time for a little bit of a philosophical conversation. Well, I'm sure you have seen the Jordan Peterson versus 20 atheist Jubilee debate, where Jordan Peterson failed or denied to answer basic, simple questions like, do you believe in an absolute code, or whether or not you are a Christian? Well, let's look at that clip first.
Can you be very clear about your definition of worship again?
Attend to, prioritize, and sacrifice for.
Okay, that's it. That's your understanding of worship.
Well, I could flesh it out, but that'll do for the time we have.
Okay, do Catholics attend to Mary?
Yes.
Okay, so do they fit that description of worship?
Yes.
So you would say Catholics and other people that revere Mary, like the Eastern Orthodox tradition, worship Mary.
Well, they might not put her in the highest
But
place.
you would put it that way.
No.
You just said it. Now you're taking it back
There's
now?
still a hierarchy.
Okay, there's a hierarchy, but within the
There's something at the top.
All right, you can worship things
Mary
below.
is quite a ways up the hierarchy, but not at the top.
Let's go over your definition of worship again. What's your definition of worship?
Attend to,
Attend to. Do
prioritize, and
Catholics
sacrifice for.
do Catholics attend to? Do they prioritize Mary over all other human beings?
No, I didn't say overall, did I? I didn't add that to my definition.
You understand?
I said there was a hierarchy as well.
You attend to
So you can attend to something trivially, or you can attend to it deeply.
Okay, now you're adding stuff to the definition. But your original
I
definition...
added the hierarchy part at the beginning.
Are you familiar?
just didn't understand it.
Are you familiar with the Immaculate Conception?
Why is that relevant?
Because you go to a Catholic church, don't you? Or you've attended recently. You're interested in Catholicism, aren't you?
Sure.
All right. Are you familiar with their doctrines?
Somewhat.
Okay, you're
Their
familiar.
doctrines are very
How do they
deep.
regard Mary?
Why are you asking me that?
Because you're a Christian.
You say that. I haven't claimed that.
Oh, what is this? Is this Christians versus atheists?
I don't know.
You don't know where you are right now.
Don't be a smartass.
Well,
and I mean
either you're a
'cause I
Christian
won't
or you're
talk
not.
to you if you're a smartass.
Oh, either you're a Christian or you're not. Which one is it?
I could be either of them, but I don't have to tell you.
You don't have to tell me. I was under the impression I
private.
was invited to talk to a Christian. Am I not talking to a Christian?
No, you were invited to.
I think everyone should look at the title of the YouTube channel. You're probably in the wrong YouTube video,
You're really quite something, you are.
aren't I? But you're really quite nothing, right? You're not a Christian.
Okay, I'm done with him.
Jordan Peterson, in another life, was a clinical psychologist and a professor in a Canadian university, where he became so popular for defending people's freedom of speech and freedom of expression against wokeism or hate speech in the name of political correctness or identity politics. Then he sort of became the father figure of the entire internet world. That was until he proclaimed his shift to Christian faith and all the philosophical debates around it. So, for the record, he has never actually claimed that he is a Christian or that he believed in God as God would be for Christians. And he gives that clarification once again in this George Janko podcast.
Or Jubilee video.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I've got a story about that. I should tell you, just so everybody knows. I haven't told this.
I don't understand how they thought they could get away with teaching you their defense or their processing in such a disrespectful tone.
Well, I'm actually going to speak a little bit in their favor for a minute. Because as it turned out, as I understand, people who were arguing with me were told a different story than I was told.
Oh.
I was told it was Jordan Peterson against 20 atheists. They were told that it was a Christian against 20 atheists. And so that first young man, who was very disrespectful, he said something about me being a Christian, and I said, I didn't make a claim to be a Christian. And he said, well, what do you mean? This is a Christian against 20 atheists. You don't even know where you are. And I thought, what the hell? I don't know. I don't understand that. That wasn't my understanding. I don't know if that was a mistake on the part of Jubilee.
They did that.
Yeah.
Because I've heard other people come from there.
It was appalling what they did. It made me look like a fool at times because I didn't know what the hell was going on. It also had the same effect on the young people that were challenging me because they felt I was playing a crooked game, when in fact both of us had been misinformed.
So, but where did you get the invitation from? From the Jubilee people?
Yes. They had offered me a number of potential topics, one of which was Jordan Peterson against 20 atheists. And I thought, oh, I could do that. As I'm very unhappy about it. I think what they did was despicable. We've thought about reacting to it. We have the documentation, but decided to let it lie. Until now, apparently.
The major, probably justified unjustifiable criticism against him is obviously that he is never clear about or straight about any of these answers, and that criticism, and therefore he is muddying up the waters, he is confusing people, he is giving Christians a free pass for their dogma or their superstitions by saying that there is some kind of scientific or reasonable validity to their faith. And all of these criticisms started right from the time he had debates with Sam Harris, and there are 12 hours of philosophical debates between them available on the internet. Do what you will with that. And it has culminated in this Jubilee debate where he once again denies the straight answer to the question, do you believe in an absolute all-knowing God?
The fact that it takes you 20 minutes to admit that a lot of the Bible is filled with barbaric nonsense.
I don't think it took me 20 minutes to admit that.
Well, yeah. We'll go to the tape on that.
These things matter. These things matter. And
I'm just saying, it's like you own
look,
it.
if you're saying that there's a danger,
if you're in a parish of 1, or in a parish of 1,000, or a parish of 100,000, but not in the parish that has anything in common with the Bible thumpers in my country who think that Jesus is very likely coming back in their lifetime because he never died, and he's going to judge the living and the dead, and there will be a resurrection and hellfire and all the rest. If that's not the game you're playing at all, own it.
Why are you all applauding about that?
His main points of contention is that he doesn't have to give a clear proclamation. He doesn't have to announce that he's a Christian in order to put forward his belief or his faith or his interpretation of Christianity. Basically an ad hominem, if you will. And for him, it is not a simple question. It is a question that grappled human minds for thousands and thousands of years, so it cannot be a simple answer. Thirdly, and most importantly, I think he says that he wants to be on the fence. He doesn't want to fall into any category because one, he doesn't see himself in a clear category to begin with, and he says that he is deemed useful because he is not in a category, because he is able to bring a lot of people together on a philosophical debate or a debate based on rationality and logic because of the standpoint he takes, and it also helps a lot of Christians and non-believers alike to understand the biblical stories better. So why am I bothered about any of this? We are always in this conversation, in this ongoing philosophical debate about different philosophies, ideologies, which is most beneficial, which makes the best sense, which is the worst, so on and so forth. So and one of the major things that we all need in this extremely polarized world is to be in a category. You have to say you're a Hindu or a ex-Hindu or a non-believer, an atheist, a Muslim. We are always seeking tags and identities in order to just say what we think is true or what works best for us. And it is in that arena that somebody like Jordan Peterson comes and says that I refuse to be in any category and I refuse to pronounce who I am or who I am not, just because you want to understand me better. Just as a casual proclamation, just in order to have a philosophical debate with me. Well, does an average person survive that kind of an ambiguity and confusion? That's one question. But I think it's quite honorable for Jordan Peterson to do that, because in pursuit of truth or in pursuit of understanding what is really real, where he does not claim something that he thinks is not the absolute truth. I think leaving behind all of these things just in pursuit of truth and understanding the true nature of his own faith and belief is one of the great things that a person can do. That annoys both atheists and Christians alike. It's like, pick a lane, bro. But as a Hindu and an Indian who comes from sorts of cultures, religions, ideologies, philosophies all coexisting in some kind of a magical tapestry. The points that Jordan Peterson makes about Christianity and the way that he analyzes and interprets Christianity, try to do that, and also the way that he is trying to reform Christianity in a certain way looks, one, very relatable to me, and second, it looks like a move in the right direction. So that is what I want to explore in this video, and what are the challenges that he faces or Christianity faces in wake of that. Today, a lot more of once atheists are now turning into Christians or people of faith, or at least spiritual. So that's when somebody like Jordan Peterson is saying that I am not a Christian, but I have this certain theory or a certain interpretation or analysis of Christianity that could be useful to the world at large. So in order to go forward, we need to understand what Jordan Peterson's this theory or interpretation of Christianity actually is, because I don't think a lot of people either understand it or pay attention to it, because we are just told that he just messes around with words, therefore we really don't listen. So actually he has a clear answer to most of these questions. It's just that it's not an answer that we would like to hear or we hear on a day-to-day basis. So he defines, I think better than most people, what God actually is. He says that God can have different meanings, but the most important meaning is something that you ascribe the highest value to in a hierarchy of values. So whatever you deem to be the most important thing or the highest thing according to you, or your ideal form of worship or understanding, is what God is to that person. And then what belief is. For him, how he describes belief is what you're willing to sacrifice for. An example would be, I'm going out today and I believe that it won't rain, so I don't carry the umbrella. So how much I'm sacrificing getting my clothes wet or getting myself wet by believing that it won't rain today is the amount or the measure of belief I have in it. And Christianity or Judeo-Christian belief system or value system is something he calls a metaphysical substrate that you can see behind, underlying all that you do as a Christian or a Jew, I think. And he says that just because of what the Judeo-Christian faith belief system embodies, it drives us to the ultimate or ideal self that we can achieve. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically by being a Christian or by acting out in a way that is Christian, you can actually get or approximate the ultimate best you can be. So and Jesus, again, for him is not, it doesn't matter for him if Jesus is real or not, but the biblical stories of Jesus, of Christ, of all of these biblical stories has an underlying psychological truth to it or psychological benefit to it, that by believing in that you can practice something which would lead you into a better life. Whether you agree with him or not, I think his analysis is to the point. As a psychologist or a academician who has such a big track record, I am sure you will also agree with that. But the problem here is two. First, how do you know this interpretation is actually what Christians are? In his words, or from what I have understood, it's not just his interpretation of Christianity that he is putting across. It's actually what he has analyzed in Christians themselves, how a Christian mind works, how Christianity works in minds of people, how people deem themselves to be redeemed framed by Christianity. So it's also a study of Christians from where he draws this interpretation.
So it's an analogous argument. There's the state of being in a good state, but there's also the state of being that brings you to that good state, and then there's the state of being that's a terrible state, and the process that brings you to that terrible state. And one of the things that I've learned from the archetypal and religious texts that I've studied, as well as the philosophical texts, is that the process that transforms society into something approximating hell is a lower hell. Now, the reason...
Well, let me just close the loop on that, because I'm pretty sure I disagree. One, you can imagine two counterexamples. One is you can imagine a sadistic being, we might even call him God, who would create a circumstance of hell and populate it with innocent souls, right? Now that's, presumably, that action, it need not be attended by a lot of suffering. Or you could imagine some...
No, but it's still wrong.
Oh, still totally
it's still
wrong. Yes.
No,
yes.
You could even imagine someone who enjoys generating
exactly.
hell.
Yes, it could be a source
but that would even be
perverse,
more wrong than not enjoying it.
Right. Yes.
Okay, so we want to separate out two things. We want to separate out these states of being and the process that brings them into being. And I do believe you do that in your work, because basically what you suggest is that the appropriate way to act ethically is to act in a manner that moves us away from hell and moves us towards a desirable state. Now, the thing is that as far as I'm concerned, there's a couple of things about that. The first thing is that I wouldn't say that that mode of acting is a fact. I would say it's a personality. And that what you're suggesting is that people embody the personality that moves society away from hell towards heaven, for lack of a better term. And the reason I make that argument is because I think that you recapitulate the essential Christian message precisely by doing that, because symbolically speaking, at least as far as I can understand, stripped of its religious, of its metaphysical context, let's say, that the purpose of positing the vision of the ideal human being, which, independent of the metaphysical context, it's certainly what the symbol of Christ represents, is the mode of being that moves us most effectively from something approximating hell to something approximating heaven. And then part of that message is, and this is also something that's dead along the lines of what you're arguing, is that the best way to embody that is actually to live in truth. I mean, so because I would say that the fundamental Christian ethic, metaphysics accepted once again, is to act in love, which is to assume that being is acceptable and can be perfected, and to pursue that with truth, and that you should embody that.
And then the next most prominent criticism is something that Sam Harris always tells him about. That is, do you think that Christianity or Bible or the faith allows this kind of an interpretation? Now, I want to really clarify here is that I am not a Christian by any means, but I'm greatly influenced by the biblical stories. But I am a Hindu, and I believe in Shiva, and I also practice yoga, the yogic philosophy to life, which can be understood as a combination of Stoicism, Buddhism, and a little bit of belief in these stories. But if somebody comes and asks me, do you believe in God? Or is your God what? Or what is your God? I would also not have a straightforward answer to it. My answer would also be really confusing. Or I would also be prompted to ask, what do you mean by belief? What do you mean by God? Because I need to make sure that we define these terms clearly. But the difference is that being a Hindu or being in this ideology or religion called Hinduism, we are allowed that kind of skepticism, or we can ask that question. It is completely okay. And we are also allowed to pick the deity or believe in what we think suits us best. There is no one book, there is no one set of rules that we have to follow. We believe that there is one goal but different ways to get there. So nobody is going to question you how you are practicing your faith or what you are believing in, unless and until, of course, it doesn't break any rules and it is something that does good for humanity at large. I'm looking at Jordan Peterson's perspective of Christianity from this lens. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I also feel that that is a reformation that Christianity could embody in the future. What do you think about it? I don't think Christianity or the Bible or the preachers would allow that kind of a metaphysicality of it. Because I don't think for a believing Christian, these are just mere stories with an underlying psychological truth to it. For them, these are real events that happened and that inspire them into becoming a Christian. In that way, Jordan Peterson is doing something that would be against evangelical Christianity, something that he himself admits more than once. He is basically unpacking Christianity, giving a scientific or reason-based analysis to it, and he is rejecting what is not, or he would reject if you ask him repeatedly the things that does not make sense in Christianity, and that's one place that he would really try to evade, and you have to be persistent to get an answer from him. But he does reject a lot of these things, though BS. In Sam Harris's words, I didn't say that. In the Bible or in Christianity, while taking the psychological truths or the psychologically beneficial things that help people move forward or reach an ideal human being. So to answer the question, does Christianity allow that? Why should we care about whether or not the Bible or the biblical way of doing, or the canonical way of doing things, or the evangelical way of doing things actually matter? Like, why would we care about that? Because today we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of expression, we have all these freedoms. So why wouldn't Jordan Peterson do something that he is doing, especially if it's beneficial? So Sam Harris makes a really good point that Stoicism or Buddhism or Hindu or yoga, to an extent, if you understand yoga well, you can actually extract the scientific or the good ways to heal yourself without being entangled in all of these stories or all of these half-truths or falsehoods or otherworldliness. So that's one criticism that Sam Harris has against Christianity, which is something that he poses at Jordan Peterson quite a lot. But I don't think that criticism of Christianity negates what Jordan Peterson does. Rather, I believe that that's an answer for the Christianity's problem. Jordan Peterson's approach could be a new way forward for a kind of a Christian faith that rejects or that looks at fiction as fiction and take the underlying useful parts of it without being entangled in the stories or believing in those stories as to be true. So that way, I really appreciate, or I really find what JP is doing is very honorable and something we all, or something the West should really look into rather than criticize. What do you think about this? Please let me know in the comment section. If you like this video, there are more videos like this that I've done on JP. So please look into that and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. Thank you.